Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon Martin.
Hello, Damon. It's Patrick Guerra, your co-host.
Are we busting out the Psycho Killer voice, or is that Scream?
Yeah, who knows? Who really knows after these last couple of weeks?
Yeah. So tonight, Patrick, of course, is one of the biggest, most anticipated films of the year. We are getting back into the Scream universe with Scream 7 officially in theaters now. We got a lot to talk about with this one, but yes, tonight is finally time for Scream 7.
It's finally here, Damon. Break out the big old knives and the ghost face masks. Scream 7 has been released in February of 2026 with, buckle up, Damon, a hell of a lot of people in this. Courtney Cox returns as Gail Weathers. Joe McHale plays Mark Evans. Mark Consuelos as Robbie Rivers. Celeste O'Connor as Chloe. Asa German as Lucas. McKenna Grace as Hannah, Jimmy Tatro, Scott, Michelle Randolph as Madison, Anna Camp as Jessica Bowden, Mason Gooding returns as Chad Meeks, Jasmine Savoy Brown returns as Mindy Meeks, and Isabel May plays Tatum Evans, Sydney's daughter, and the return, Damon, of Neve Campbell as Sydney Prescott, everyone's favorite final girl. Let's be real about it, right? She's the big time final girl. And as you mentioned, Damon, written by Kevin Williamson and Guy Busick and directed by a very familiar name, Kevin Williamson, who wrote the original Scream. Damon, Scream 7 is when a new Ghostface killer, imagine that, emerges in the town where Sidney Prescott has built a new life, but her darkest fears are realized as her daughter becomes the next target. Dun dun dun.
So we obviously know this movie came together. Not necessarily that Neve Campbell wouldn't have come back. We have no idea if she would have or would not have come back. She didn't do Scream 6 based upon a shitty salary. She didn't get paid enough. She didn't feel like she was getting her worth. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So they cut her out and they did the movie anyways. And now this time it's kind of the reverse of that with the whole Melissa Barrera controversy. I'm not going to judge anybody for not watching or not watching this movie. Me personally, I was never not going to watch this movie. It's a Scream movie, and I will gladly stand on moral high ground for a lot of things. But this time, I was just like, you know what? It's a movie. I'm going to watch it. I think most people who even are probably saying they're not going to watch it are eventually going to watch it because that's just what you do. And we reviewed plenty of movies with troublesome people involved. That's just the nature of entertainment, sadly, the reality of our situation. But, Patrick, I'm a massive Scream fan. I've argued that as much as I love Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger is my slasher, I've actually said on the record that Scream is probably my favorite franchise because overall it's the most consistent franchise. I can't look at Nightmare on Elm Street and say they're all pretty good films. I could look at like 4 of them and say they're good films, but Scream, even what I would consider the quote unquote bad ones are not bad. Like they're still watchable films. And I would argue Scream 7 kind of still falls into that category, but I have a lot more issues with this film. And it really, really comes down to story. And I know a lot of that's going to have to come down to spoilers. So I don't want to just tease during this non-spoiler section, but there's things to like about this, but there's also, I do have a lot of issues with this movie, and it kind of bums me out because I was pretty excited about. I did. Let me be clear. I didn't go into expectations. Oh my God, it's gonna be movie of the year. None of that. But I was hoping for a fun time, and it was all right. But yeah, probably more on the negative side than I expected to be coming out of a Scream movie, to be honest.
I'm going to be real honest with you, Damon. I came into Scream 7 exhausted. For the online discourse, which is like there's just people who are like, you cannot watch this movie. If you're watching this movie, you're a piece of shit. Or people are just like, hey, here's why I'm not watching the movie. And that's fine. And I'm totally fine with that. And then there's the people who are like, if you're not watching the movie, you're an asshole. I'm like, Jesus Christ, everyone shut the fuck up at this point. Like, I hated hearing about all that. And by the way, I'm down to support you. If you want to avoid this movie because of those things, that's totally fine by me. Like, I really didn't, that doesn't bother me. We have a podcast, and we have people that don't follow all that stuff, and they're like, "Hey, are you going to talk about Scream 7? It's only going to be the biggest movie of the weekend." And it was. We are recording this Thursday night. I guarantee you it's number one at the box office. The pre-sales are insane. It's a very popular franchise. It's going to be seen whether you see it or not, and there's no judgment whether you see it or not from us. That said, I was exhausted coming into this for another reason, Damon, and that was as much as I loved elements of 5 and 6, the killer reveals in those were so belabored and boring and just like soap opera bullshit that I wasn't even excited for another movie. Even if it had been with Melissa Barrera, who I, by the way, love. I think Melissa Barrera is fucking awesome. We did Your Monster, which is if you have not seen Your Monster, you go, Damon and Patrick like that? Hell yeah, we do. It was a great rom-com with a little tinge of horror that she's in and shows off all her wonderful talents. But Scream itself was feeling rather tired. Even with this kind of reboot, there's things about it that I liked, but its endings, Damon, which is critical, genuinely critical to Scream. Its endings were, to me, ridiculous. The 5 and 6, the endings, I was just like, why are we here doing this? And so I wasn't even looking forward to this movie, no matter what it was going to be. I was just like, what are we going to do next? Sydney's brother's friend. And then came the news, and this is very public news, that Matthew Lillard was returning. Now, they said we're not discussing how or in what context. And we do know from Melissa Barrera's movies, which, by the way, Scream 7 is inside the canon of those movies. It not only doesn't ignore them, it actually brings characters back from them. That's not a spoiler. You can look that up anywhere. You can see it in trailers. This movie, oh shit, I lost my fucking train of thought.
Matthew Lillard.
What was
You're going with
Matthew Lillard? Thank you, Matthew Lillard. Yeah, there's just a lot to unpack. The Matthew Lillard of it all felt to me like a really desperate move. But at the same time, I go, there is an opportunity to play with this because the long-standing rumor, everybody had been waiting for the return of Stu Macher. Everybody had been, I'm talking about Scream 5 and 6 too.
Oh, this
People
was
were
going
just
back
like,
to like Scream 3. They were talking about Scream
oh,
3
sure.
and Stu coming back. Yeah.
No, totally. But they had their little break and then they kind of came back for 5 and 6. And it was like, he can return. He can return. Um, his death could be kind of shaky and in the air. Like we can say that he died. We can say he survived. We didn't really get into his death. So that was hanging in the air. And I go, this is either going to be very stupid, what they do with Stu Macher, or it's going to be intriguing. And I'm here to tell you, Damon, without spoiling anything, it's a mix of both.
So I think I don't know if I said this on a past episode or I just said this on maybe on TikTok or Instagram. I know I said it somewhere, but less is more, and I really would have preferred them not saying who else. I mean, obviously you're going to say Neve
Yeah.
Campbell's back and Courtney Cox is back. I get all that. But when they announced Matthew Lillard, my first instinct was like, why would you announce that? Like, what a great surprise. But then I realized what they were doing. They were playing to the favorites of the Scream crowd, knowing they needed to get people back on board after the whole Melissa Barrera thing. I get it. So that, like, part of me was like, I get why they're doing that because they want to get people to say, hey, here's a legacy cast member who hasn't been seen since Scream 1, everyone's favorite Scream movie. Let's tell you that he's coming back in some form or fashion. They're not telling you how he's coming back. They're not saying in what way he's coming back. And then the trailer, of course, with him at the very end saying this is going to be fun. It was, as much as I despise the idea that you could have potentially had a great surprise in this movie by just like, boom, Matthew Lillard shows up in some way, shape, or fashion, I would be like, oh, wow, that's awesome. But I get it. For this movie, for this time, and judging by the pre-sale tickets and what they're projecting for opening weekend, probably worked because this movie's going to open probably bigger than any Scream movie in history. But at the same time, then they started revealing other characters coming back, and this person's going to make an appearance, and this person's coming back, and I'm just like, why are we doing this? Like, is there not? And by the way, there was one surprise that I won't tell you here. There is one surprise that was not advertised, was not rumored. we'll mention it in spoilers. So they did save one, but like everybody else, like, oh yeah, he's gonna make an appearance and she's gonna make, and I'm just like, all right, one is enough. Matthew Lillard was enough. I didn't need more than that. Like that was plenty. And the
Yeah.
one thing I'll say about going back to Scream 5, like part of my and if you go on TikTok and Instagram for that matter, I put up a video a couple of days ago talking about ranking the motives of the Scream killers of the ghost faces, and my last place one was Richie and Amber from Scream 5. Because as different and unique as the whole toxic fandom was, I was like, really, they had no connection to these characters. They just kind of like inserted themselves into their lives because they were mad that the Stab franchise had gone off the rails. They wanted to bring it back to its core. And so they were basically trying to orchestrate their own Stab movie. Again, it was cool. Like it was a cool, different concept, but really, that's not really a motive. It's not like it's not like they had some personal
Yeah.
connection because every other major motive, even Scream 6, was Richie's family trying to come back and avenge him. Goofy still a little bit, but at least it was like based on like the original premise of the movie, which is revenge for something you wronged me for, which is classic movie stuff. So as much as I despise the idea of just injecting new relatives and like other, like looking back on them, even like Melissa Barrera's, like Sam Carpenter, her being Billy Loomis's daughter, like the more I think about it, the more it bugs me because I'm just like,
Yeah.
really, like it just. I get it, and I understand what they're doing, and they want to bring back Skeet Ulrich so they can make an appearance again and play on that nostalgia. I get it. But the more I thought about him, I'm just like, really, we're going to reinvent that he had an illegitimate daughter from high school? Like, he was only like 18 when he died, and he was porking some other girl in front of Sid. It was like they were injecting a storyline that never existed before. If they'd hinted at that, like and I know they didn't see this in the forefront when they were making Scream, but like if Billy had taunted Sydney to say, "I never loved you, I was boning every girl on the side," I know that would have been a weird way to taunt her, but like at least they would have had that like element to say, "Oh yeah," or they would have shown him like flirting with other girls, anything. They just suddenly randomly, oh yeah, he was boning some girl on the side and he had an illegitimate child when he was 18. It was a really the more I think about it, the more convoluted it gets. But I understand what they're trying to do is make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to tie it back to make that connection. And the further and further along we go in these movies, the one thing I did applaud Scream 6 for, I was like, well, you know what? As much as I love Sydney, and I do feel bummed that Nev Campbell's not in this, I did appreciate that they kind of moved beyond the Sidney Prescott of it all, because the problem that a lot of horror franchises have is like even though we root for the final girl, we root for the heroine to survive, you got to move beyond that to give us new story and new elements. Nancy Thompson was only in 1 and 3 in Nightmare on Elm Street. She's in 2 parts. I mean, I'm not saying I wanted her to die in Dream Warriors. I'm just saying like they kind of saw the end of her story, and then they picked it up with the next group of characters. It was Alice and Kristen. Well, Kristen in Dream Warriors into 4. She dies, hands it off to Alice. Alice in 4 and 5, and then the franchise goes off the rail with Freddy's dead. But they kind of knew they had to move on. They've never moved on beyond Sidney Prescott. Now, I'm not saying I wanted Sidney to die. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying, like, we are now 7 movies deep or 6 with Sidney. You're starting to cross the line of, like, believable to completely ridiculous of, like, how far we're going. Like, because even in 5, it really wasn't. I mean, it wasn't really about Sydney. It was about them wanting to make a better, like, they were toxic fans. They wanted to make a better Stab movie. They weren't trying to avenge Sydney. They weren't trying to, like, they were just including her because of the movies they love were based on her character, based on her real life. So even now, I was like, all right, you're not reinventing some dumb way to get back into the story. And then Sydney wasn't even part 6. Now we are 6 parts deep, and it's just like we keep reinventing ways to torment Sydney. So one of 2 things has to happen. You either have to get really, really, really creative, or you have to kill her. And I'm here to tell you, Patrick, I'm not saying spoilers, but I'm saying, like, I don't know that I just feel like they're running out of ideas, like, in how to include Sydney.
It feels very tired. It really does. Now, Kevin Williamson has a real task at hand when he takes the reins of this. First of all, he has to somehow make it feel fresh, and that part I think he failed at. Not because he's a bad writer, and there's actually a lot of things in this movie I think he does well, But because of just what you said, how many more times can we dip into this well? And the more I think about it, it was less desperate bringing back Stu Macher than it was bringing back Sidney Prescott. It that actually made it even more desperate because there is so many times in Scream 7 where I just go, this is really happening to her again? Like again. And there's there's suspension of disbelief, which is very important to movies, but it's going to stretch thin after a while, and you are eventually going to have to do things on screen that are an insult to the audience's intelligence. You don't have a choice anymore. You're literally like, how do we make this happen again? We have to we have to take logic out of the game, even the logic of our own world. We have to take out of the game because we just literally have to get from A to B. We don't have a choice. And that's no one's fault other than the people who are like, we're making another Scream, God damn it. Whether anyone wants to come back or not, we're making another one and we're going to find a way to do it. Money talks, Damon. And by the way, Nev Campbell deserved the money that she got. It was bullshit that they didn't even give her money for Scream 6. We were both adamant about that. That was horseshit. But I like that they were moving on. But maybe they did need to fucking move on. That's the problem. Maybe they did. Maybe they really needed to move on. I'm going to say something positive about this movie now. What originally made Scream interesting, and I'm talking about the first one, because I think the first one is still an incredible piece of work, is its meta aspects. That got turned on its head in this movie, and I don't really want to spoil it too much, but it is no longer about tying it into horror films in general and using your knowledge of horror films to understand the killer that's coming after you. It's no longer that. It is about the knowledge of the Scream franchise. Now the meta is really about what has this franchise that is spanning 30 years, what can it teach us about these characters? What can it teach us about the as Damon Martin has claimed before, the slasher dying? What can it teach us about why the slasher doesn't work on a large scale anymore? And didn't we run into it again here? Right? Like if I came in and said, look, guys, I know, love it or hate it, Scream 7 was great. I wasn't able to say that because the slasher, as the great Damon Martin proclaimed when we talked about I Know What You Did Last Summer's reboot or kind of refresh, it's just you keep dipping into this well and it's not working anymore. We audiences are too sophisticated, and I was in a packed house. I don't know about you. Audience members who were 100% there for the love. I mean, they cheered every time Sydney was on screen, et cetera, et cetera. And then a scene later, they go, "You dumb bitch! Why did you do that?" I mean, like literally screaming at the screen. It's no longer working. And there was a lot of groaning and a lot of, "Oh my God, are you serious?" That was a lot of I Know What You Did Last Summer too, the reboot. I think you and I were both going, "Are you serious?" Although I had fun with that movie, that was a little more tongue in cheek. Scream 7 is trying desperately to make its logic and its world relevant. And I hate to say it, Damon, it feels like if slashers are done for audiences, Scream is like 100% done. At least the Sidney Prescott story should be done after what I saw with Scream 7.
Well, here's the problem, Patrick, and I mean this with all due love and respect for Scream 5 and Scream 6, and I appreciate what Radio Silence and those guys did with those films. I think Scream 7 would have worked a little bit better if this was just Scream 5. Because we wouldn't have the exhaustion of having, Scream 5, Sydney comes back, they're back to Woodsboro, they're back in Stu Macher's house, they're introducing Billy Loomis's illegitimate child, and then we have to find a reason to bring back Courtney Cox, we have to find a reason to bring back Nev Campbell, blah, blah, blah. Dewey, all that kind of stuff. We're playing a lot of nostalgia. We're playing a lot of the greatest hits. Like we're kind of moving on, but not really because we got to bring back Sydney. We got to bring in Randy's niece and nephew who are here
Yeah.
all of a sudden. We got to bring in all this stuff. So there's a lot of nostalgia play. And I get it at that point because the last Scream movie was 2011. The first one that came out after was what, 2022, I think, was Scream 5 or whatever they call what Scream, whatever the hell they called it. It was 2022. So we're talking about 11 years. So I understand playing that nostalgia card 11 years later because you are kind of like getting people back, re-inviting people back into the franchise. I get it. So I think Scream 7 would have worked a little bit better if it was just Scream 5 because then you don't have the exhaustion of back to back to back Scream films. And this movie, this is not a spoiler, Patrick. I mean, this is like the most I can say without getting into spoilers. This movie it feels like a greatest hits album. Now, there's
Kinda.
nothing wrong with the greatest hits album. Let me be clear about that. I like some greatest hits. I have some greatest hits vinyls in my collection. I like it. There is a reason why bands or musicians have 10 hit singles. They decide to put them all on one record and let people collect it that way. I get it. But it was almost exhausting to hit all the nostalgia in this movie. It's like, oh yeah, that, and oh yeah, this, and oh yeah, that. And like like they really hammered the point home throughout this entire movie that Sydney named her daughter Tatum. We heard that in the trailer. She calls her Tatum. I was like, oh, cool. She named her daughter after her best friend who got killed in high school. But man, do they feel the need to tell you that over and over and over again to everyone. They're like, Tatum? Who's Tatum? Oh, Tatum was my best friend in high school. Really? Why'd you name your daughter Tatum? Well, Tatum, she got killed in the garage door. Tatum? You mean Tatum, the one from high school? Yeah, that Tatum. They literally did that like 4 times in this movie. They're like, why is she named Tatum? If you are a Scream fan, even on the lowest level of Scream fan, you know who Tatum is. They literally beat that into your head about like why'd you name your daughter Tatum? That was like and then like I said, like the nostalgia play. One other thing they did in this movie that drove me absolutely insane, and this is not a spoiler. This is just something they do. They make a comment early on. And we all know that Gale Weathers is in this movie, so this isn't a spoiler. But at one point, Gale Weathers, shows up to whatever's going on, and they mentioned "We missed you in New York," which is reference to Scream 6, which is when Neve Campbell sat out.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You make reference. She's not in that movie, and they're like, "We really missed you." Or, okay, cool, I got you. Much like the Tatum thing, they run that line into the freaking ground in this movie. I'm not kidding. They had to say it 6 times. We missed you in New York. Man, it would have been so much better. Like, they're basically saying Scream 6 fucking sucked because Neve Campbell wasn't in it. Now, I'm not saying it is or isn't true. I love Neve Campbell, and I'm glad she's back. But my God, like, I don't need you to beat me over the head with a hammer. They literally said that like 4 or 5 times. Man, New York just wasn't the same without you. Man, it really sucked in New York without you. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like, we get it. One time is enough. You make the kind of like, the little meta joke about, she wasn't there. You pay credit to that and say, we missed you. I wish you were there. That's a nice homage to say they should have paid you what you were worth so you could have been in the freaking movie. One time's enough. They did it like 4 times. 4 times. We don't need it 4 times. We don't need to know why Tatum's in the movie 4 times. It was that over and over and over again. And like they had another moment where Mindy and what's her brother's name?
Oh shit.
Chad.
Chad, that's right.
Where they once again they reiterate like the rules. And I'm like, I get it. You're Randy's niece and nephew. You know the rules.
Yeah.
We don't need to hear them again. We don't need to go through this again. It was like they were just playing the greatest hits record. They had to hit every beat, every single beat. And oh, by the way, here's, so-and-so, and here's this. And it was just like that throughout the entire movie. Now, it sounds like I hated this movie, Patrick. I didn't. It was fine. It was all right. Like, I'm not sitting there saying I hated it. I hated the ending. And we'll get into that in spoilers. That's where this movie fell off the rails for me. But it really did feel like they were just like, we're going to play the greatest hits and we're going to get everybody back on board. And I think it would have worked if this was the first movie that we got in the Scream franchise 11 years after the last one. But it's not. This is the 3rd movie in 4 years that we're getting a Scream movie. Do it once, fine. You do not need to do it again 3 movies in after we've already been back. I think that's probably one of my biggest issues with this movie.
Yeah, the mistakes were made, Damon, and they're trying to, and I really feel like all of that discussion, all of those references to Sydney not being there in New York, and they're not subtle. These are not subtle references. They are essentially talking shit on that entire production. That's how I would take it. If I was Radio Silence and I was Melissa Barrera and I was Jenna Ortega, what I would take that as is like, oh, we really fucked up over there. So now we're here to make it right. And it was a little bit like, it was a little bit jarring to hear those words come out of Mindy and Chad's mouths,
Yeah.
who are part of the core four, Damon. As you know, if you're a Scream fan, you know who the core four are, right? To hear it coming out of their mouths in this movie, it seemed a bit venomous, in my
Well,
opinion.
I don't mean to interrupt. Let me just throw this out. I want to see if you agree with me here. Did it almost feel like Kevin Williamson hadn't watched Scream 5 and Scream 6? Because there's elements of like the nostalgia part. It's like he injected into his movie for Scream 7. It's almost like he didn't watch Scream 5 and Scream. Like, did it feel? It felt like that to me at moments. I'm like, did you watch those movies? Like, do you know these characters?
I'm willing to bet he didn't watch them, and that's a very common thing, by the way. Actually, a lot of directors are like, I don't want to be influenced by anything that you did before. Like they'll be like, hey, can you rewrite the script for me? What's the treatment of it? I don't want to know the script. Don't even show it to me. That's a very common thing. Kevin Williamson, very accomplished writer and director himself. So I'm sure he might have just been like, I'm sure he never even touched those movies because he's like, that's not really my stuff. My stuff is the Sydney stuff. I don't do this stuff. But in my opinion, that meta aspect was venomous towards Melissa Barrera's movies, which should piss off the people who wanted to boycott Scream 7 to begin with because they hated Skydance for what they did to Melissa Barrera. You're not going to like them anymore. It's
Spyglass. Let me go.
is it Spyglass?
Spyglass. Yeah,
Excuse me,
Spyglass.
Spyglass. Yeah, Spyglass. Skydance is another one. They're like, hey, why the fuck are we getting shrapnel here?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you hated Spyglass before, you're going to hate them more after this movie. You are, because in my opinion, the meta of this movie is we fucked up over there. And my answer to that is no, you fucked up by trying to fuck everyone over in the process. You all fucked up. Don't act like it's those movies' faults. You were all high on the hog with those movies. You guys were happy with what was going on in those movies until, general consensus turned against y'all. Like, and I say general consensus, maybe not general, okay? Maybe the more hardcore fans turned against them. It's still doing numbers. It's still clearly not moving the needle in any negative direction. But they were trying to shift blame to, like, in my opinion, that's what the meta was doing in this movie. It was shifting blame to those movies, going, yeah, we fucked up on these little divergence we did over here. No, you didn't. You fucked up long ago. You fucked up a while back. It's actually your fault, Spyglass. Just so you know. Now, Damon, I'll say this before we get into spoilers. There are some positives to this movie. One, the suspense is there. The who done it aspect, they keep you guessing. I mean, as long as they possibly can, and they try hard. I felt like I saw a few cracks form very quickly. We'll get into that in spoilers. But did they play the classic game of like everyone is a suspect? Yes, they did. They 100% did. So that's here. Some very decently timed and effective scares. My theater was shitting bricks. Well, a lot of people were just screaming prematurely, like a very, very animated group of people watching mine. So there's scares in there. The kills are brutal. They don't hold back on these kills. And there's a lot of gore. And that's something that I felt like carried over from 5 and 6. Because in my opinion, the only big problem I've had with the first four movies was that they weren't the craziest, gnarliest slashers. They were kind of more about the drama, and the kills were there, but like I needed a leveling up, and I felt like 5 and 6 leveled it up in terms of the slasher violence. It's still here in Scream 7, so you get those elements of this in this film. But that might be the last of the positives I have for this movie, Damon.
Well, let's get into spoilers because there's so much I want to say that I can't say right now. So, Scream 7 is in theaters right now. It is like if you were a Scream fan, I'm still going to tell you to go see this movie because there's like I said, I'm giving you a lot of the criticism as the hardcore Scream guy on this podcast. I'm giving you the criticisms that I found as a hardcore Scream fan, but it still felt like a Scream movie. They didn't just reinvent the wheel and say we're going to do something totally different. This is now elevated horror, and now we're going to turn this into supernatural bullshit. No, it's still very much a Scream. The DNA of a Scream movie is there. It just feels a little redundant, and so that's my biggest complaint of what I can tell you in non-spoilers. So Scream 7 in theaters right now. Go check it out. And if you want early access to this episode and every episode, go join our Patreon, patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. You will get access to this episode early, and then you'll get access to all of our episodes early, along with bonus episodes, non-horror film podcasts that we do once a month called Film Core. So go over and check it out, patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. With that being said, Patrick, we are now full spoilers, so be forewarned if you're listening to this podcast. We are now full spoilers for Scream 7. And let me just lay it out for you, Patrick, how this whole thing starts. So we start out back in Woodsboro, and it's in the trailer. A couple goes, they're renting out Stu Macher's house as an Airbnb, which, by the way, I think that actually is a thing, or there's something similar to that they actually do.
Yes.
And a girl and a guy show up, and the guy is obviously a huge Stab fan. You know, he's going, oh, man, this is where Amber got killed, and this is where Stu got killed, this is where Billy got killed, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, a Ghostface killer pops out and kills both of them, and then ends up burning down the house, and we're off and running because it seems like this Ghostface killer is determined to burn everything down from the past and get back to Sydney's present, which we find out that Sydney is now living in a small town called Pine Grove in Indiana. Her husband is the local police chief, and she has a daughter named Tatum, who, by the way, in case you didn't catch it in the movie, that was named after her friend Tatum from the original Scream movie.
My friend Tatum.
Yeah, and she has like two other kids who are with her husband's mother, which is kind of weirdly convenient, but neither here nor there. They're just like not there. and out of nowhere, you know, Tatum is going to high school, which I do appreciate once again that this movie just kind of dialed back the clock of like having 28-year-olds play 17-year-olds, because like every actor in this movie is like 25, 26, 27, and they're all playing like 16-year-olds. But anyways, she goes to school and they're doing like a play. She's like in a drama club. She's doing a play, and sure enough, out of nowhere, a Ghostface shows up, hacks up a couple of her friends, and we're off and running. But the big surprise, Patrick, the big reveal, which I was like, wow, they're not holding back on this one. Sydney she owns her own coffee shop. How many careers has Sydney had in Scream movies now? She's had like 9
Had
careers.
them all.
She gets a call at work. She owns a little coffee shop in her little small town, and she gets a call, and of course it's like, hello, Sydney. Oh, of course she thinks it's a prank because, she's Sydney Prescott. She gets it all the time. But then this Ghostface knows a little bit too much information. And then he calls back and she's like, you just fucking reveal yourself. He's like, okay. And so he FaceTimes her. And when the FaceTime picks up, it's Stu Macher. Matthew Lillard with cuts all over his face looking like he got a television dropped on him 20 or 30 years ago. And it's him, and it sounds like him, and he's talking, he's taunting Sydney. And she's like stunned, but also like, this has got to be some AI bullshit. Like, there's no way this is Stu Macher. But then she sees he's actually outside her daughter's high school, and she's like, oh, fuck. So she, they all ring the alarm bell, they go there and find the dead kids, and we're off and running. There's a Ghostface tormenting Sydney who is telling her it's Stu Macher. He's alive and well, and he's coming for his revenge for her killing him or trying to kill him 30 years ago. And that's really where we're off and running with the plot. And then everything kind of plays out from there like a standard Scream movie. We're trying to figure out who it is. Mindy and Chad are accusing everybody because that's what they do in every movie, which is getting very tired and old. And then, of course, Sydney's daughter Tatum is now thinking all of her friends are potentially ghost faces. And the one thing we learn about Sydney in this new age of 2026 is that she has not imparted a lot of what her life was like to her daughter Tatum. She hasn't told her, like, they know the story, they know the Stab movies, but her mother has never really told her story. So, like, anytime she brings it up, she's like, I don't really want to talk about this. I get it. Like, it's trauma. You don't really want to revisit that trauma. But her daughter is kind of desperate to know her mother because her mother is very famous. Like, her mother's this famous survivor. So we learned that very early on. And then we're off and running. And it just plays And I'm not saying this in a bad way, Patrick. It plays out like a formulaic Scream movie, which, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like let me say, this sounds like a really backhanded compliment, but you'll get what I'm saying. I would 1000% rather I get a formulaic Scream movie where it's like, we're going after Sydney or whoever. We're going to trying to figure out who's guilty, who is the ghost face. We can't trust anybody. It's always someone you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm fine with all that. I'd much rather have that than just randomly putting Jason Voorhees on a fucking boat and dumping him in Manhattan and saying, Jason takes Manhattan. I will take this Scream movie over that bullshit any day of the week, twice on Sunday. But everything else plays out very formulaic in this Scream movie. It's just beat by beat of what you're used to seeing in a Scream movie.
I would disagree on a remake of Jason Takes Manhattan because I would love to. But the original Jason Takes Manhattan, I know it has its fans. It's a boring movie. I mean, it is a snoozer of a movie. I wish they had done the movie they intended. But I digress, Damon. I think that this movie it did something else that it was kind of forced to do, and you mentioned it right there. The relationship between Tatum and Sydney. It doesn't really make sense that Sydney is so withholding from Tatum. It actually doesn't make sense because you know who Sydney Prescott is. She's a fighter. She always has been. Why wouldn't she teach her daughter to defend herself? I feel that that was forced on this production, on this writing, because of Halloween 2018. Because in that movie, Laurie Strode taught her daughter, tortured her daughter essentially into being like, you have to be prepared for when he returns because he will. He's coming for us. So Kevin Williamson was like, I can't do that. They already did it. So what if I just do the opposite of that, which is make Tatum ill prepared? The problem is that makes Tatum, poor Tatum, by the way, played by Isabel May, who I'm just realizing who she is. She's from 1883, which is a phenomenal period drama that I really, really loved. And now I'm realizing who it is, and it's like, oh yeah, she's 26 years old. She's not a 16-year-old. Fair game. She does a great job. She's a great actor. So I digress once again. But it turns Tatum into an idiot, and not the kind that is charming enough to make her dumb decisions make sense. So the first problem is when we're off to the races, which is when Ghostface descends on her high school play, where they're practicing her high school play. Ghostface comes in there and guts some of her friends, amongst them McKenna Grace, by the way, from the Ghostbuster movies. And then Tatum is like a pouty child because Sydney's like, you need to go into lockdown immediately. And she's like, but mom. And it's like, on no planet, I don't care how hormonal of a 16-year-old you have, her friends just got slaughtered. Of course she's going to go get on lockdown, but they had to play that game to allow Tatum to go like, well, what if while the whole town goes on lockdown because now the fucking shit has hit the fan and everybody is descending on this town and there's all the eyes are on them. They create a lockdown scenario. In that lockdown scenario, Tatum's like, I got an idea. Why don't me and all my friends escape during this time? Makes no fucking sense, Damon. I understand that Kevin Williamson, with all of his ability, stretched plausibility as thin as he could to make that make sense. But boy, is it so thin
Well,
that it
I
absolutely
mean,
snaps.
it's I mean, not to reference back to a Star Wars movie, but this is Scream 1 all over again. Remember, that's they had a curfew in town. Everyone's supposed to be at home by 9 o'clock, and they all go to Stu's house for a party. It's kind of the same thing. They decide to all go to a
Sure,
bar.
but now they all know that history.
Yeah, but here's the
And
thing. I'm not trying to do. I am doing a rewrite of Living Dead, but let me just mention this. Like you talk about, like Sydney. Like I get. So when we get to Scream 4, Sydney is like kind of come out of the, not trying to say come out of the closet in that way, but she's kind of come out of hiding in a way where like in Scream 3, she's basically hiding from the world. She's living out in the middle of nowhere like the Unabomber, and she has to get drawn back into the situation where she has to go to Hollywood and deal with the new Ghostface, which ends up being her brother, Roman. In the fourth one, she's written a book. She's doing like a book tour. She's on press junkets. Like she's out in the world. And then it happens again. The ghost faces come for her again, which turns out to be her cousin, which is fucked up, and why I actually really love Scream 4. It was a different way in, and actually a really cool twist, which was my number one motive, by the way, of my Scream motive rankings, which was Jill trying to become the new Sydney. I was like, that's a cool idea, because she was actually fucking evil. So to have Sydney kind of go back into hiding away in a way and like hide away her trauma, that doesn't bother me as much. Like she went from like hiding to being out in the world, and now that didn't work. Like it still cost her. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to tuck it all away again. I'm going to hide my trauma. Okay. And you don't want to put that on your daughter. That part I understand to a certain extent. But you're right. They make Tatum remarkably dumb in all her decision making. And at that point, my thought was, her dad's a cop.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, we're in spoiler. Her dad's a good guy. Like, we don't find out that her husband's actually a ghost face.
That would have been real stupid, but I was like,
yeah.
But they make you believe. They're like, anything could be true here. Yeah.
But he ends up, Joel McHale, by the way, who I like very much, very good actor. Great in The Bear, by the way, if you've never seen The Bear.
Yeah, real good in Sinister in The Bear.
Good. Very good. That's why I was like, man, maybe they're going to make him the ghost face. He's fucking evil as shit in The Bear. Ends up being a good guy, but he's a cop. So he's got training. Like he's actually, my thought was, Sydney's like, I don't want any of my dark shit to touch my daughter. But what if the dad's like, but you are Sydney fucking Prescott? And what if behind her back, he's been secretly not training her. I'm not saying he's taking her.
No, but he's giving her something.
Showing how to use a gun, showing her how to, do basic self-defense kind of stuff. And then when it happens, and Tatum kind of jumps into action a little bit, not full on final girl, smash glass, tie tape on my hands, I'm ready to fucking. But she when she's pick up the gun, and Tatum's she's loads it. She's like, how the fuck you know how to do that? And she's like, well, Dad's been teaching me that little extra element of drama. I think would have helped. I disagree with you on the Sydney thing. I get that she's trying to hide that trauma away from her daughter. I get that part of it, but her husband knows who she is. Her husband knows this has happened fucking 5 times in the past.
And he's incredibly capable, and they make it very clear in this movie. He's a very capable guy. He can handle shit.
Yeah, so that's what I'm like, why wouldn't that doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? It's why I get her, but the dad kind of, and I think that would add a little extra layer of drama. That she's like, why are you teaching our daughter this shit? And he's like, because you're Sidney fucking Prescott. These ghost faces always show up for you. I knew it was going to come again, so I wanted to make sure our daughter was ready. That would have added a little layer of drama in there. They just completely discount that, and they make Tatum an idiot.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. You see how that's available, and they don't use it,
right?
And it's they had to make her stupid to make the idea of this happening all over again work. And this is what we were saying in non-spoilers, which is just if you keep dipping into the Scream well, specifically Sydney's well, it's going to run dry. And it's ran dry to where you just have to go, well, we're gonna ignore the fact that her dad is police chief and a hell of a capable guy, a really capable guy. He fights toe to toe with Ghostface, and it's a fantastic fight. I mean, he's very, very good at. Clearly, she chose a man who could defend her family. She was like, I need to find a guy who can handle me, what the kind of magnet I am for this shit. And so they even have to just wave that off and go, never mind. And that is insulting the audience. Audience, and this is going back to your statement about are slashers really done? They kind of are, because audiences are too sophisticated for it. And I understand there are plenty of audience members. I was with some tonight, not personally, but just they were clearly in the room, who were just like, I'm here to turn my brain off and yell Sidney fucking Prescott. That's what I want to do. I get it. But audiences are not going to keep buying this shit. There's no way they can do another Sidney Prescott Scream. And I did hear Kevin Williamson on the red carpet say, Nev's got a great idea for an 8th. I'm going to tell you right now, Kev, no, she doesn't. You think she does. There's no, unless it is Sydney is dead in the 8th movie. She died of a heart attack or some shit. If that's the only good idea that Nev Campbell could possibly have for a Scream 8 because they are stretching this premise to its limits.
I
And
mean,
there's so many moments in this movie where I just groaned at how terrible they were just like, we got to do this because there's nothing left. We are chewing at the bone at this point.
this goes back to my whole greatest hits argument. They're like, you know what, we got nothing left, so let's just like make sure we play Satisfaction and the paint it black. We're gonna make sure we play the hits. We gotta make sure we're going to see Metallica. They got to play Enter Sandman. They got to play Master of Puppets. Fuck all the B sides. We got to make sure we get to the hits.
By the way, I've
And
been to that Metallica concert. It's pretty good.
it is. I actually saw that in San Diego at Comic-Con a couple years ago when they played there. But like it just felt like that. Like they're like, you know what? We don't have anything fresh to say, so let's just go back to our greatest hits. Let's bring back Matthew Lillard. Let's bring back Nev Campbell. Let's sprinkle in a couple of the characters from Scream 5 and Scream 6 with the Meeks. Let's bring in Courtney. Which, by the way, like Courtney Cox coming back as Gail Weathers, she does nothing in this movie.
No.
The
No,
thing,
Damon. Go ahead. I'm sure that's what you're about to say.
The one thing they have her do, which I guess technically she doesn't even do, is the first Ghostface that attacks Sydney and her family in their house, we find out is a mental patient that got released from a psychiatry ward. And as he's chasing them down the street, a truck just comes by, fucking plows the guy and kills him, which you're like, oh, wow, shit, they're going to kill a Ghostface early. And you pull up the mask, and everyone's like, who the fuck is that? And then person gets out of the car, and it's Chad and Mindy and Courtney Cox or Gail Weathers. They all saved the day at the exact moment. But outside of that...
Oh, I groaned from that moment. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You're going to do this right now.
But outside of that moment, she serves no purpose. Mindy and Chad really serve no purpose. They're just kind of there. They're just like, hey, here's characters you know from the other movies.
I am going to counter you, Damon. They do serve a purpose, and I hate their purpose. They serve the purpose to shit on 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Everything that comes out of their mouth, and I'm talking very specifically, Gail, Mindy, and Chad, they are only there to insult 5 and 6. That's literally all their lines. I mean, not literally, but the vast majority is just to go, that was bad. Let's pretend this is the best thing ever. That was bad. Remember the good times? And I'm just like, I found it so insulting. I don't know. Like, I'm so insulted for Radio Silence. Damon, I'm not like the biggest Radio Silence guy. I don't like Ready or Not. By the way, get ready. We're going to do Ready or Not 2 next month. I'm not a fan of those movies. Surprise, surprise. But I like I like some of the things they did with the Scream 5 and 6. If I was them, I'd be like, fuck you guys. Wow. What did we ever do to you? Like genuinely. And so that's the only counter is like their job in this movie is to try and gaslight you into not liking 5 and 6.
This is Rian Johnson with The Last Jedi. He basically took everything that happened in Force Awakens. Is like, you know what? I didn't like anything you did, J.J. Abrams, so I'm going to completely. I mean, I know you like that movie. I'm not saying
we're doing that movie for the film corps. We're doing it.
But that's literally what he does. He like undoes everything that J.J. Abrams did in the other movie. Basically, like, you know what? Fuck that movie. We're gonna do everything the exact opposite. Like, everything you did in that movie doesn't matter. We're gonna redo it in this movie. That's where I was like, they have no plan for these movies. Like, they have no idea where they're going.
They did not have plans. No.
That's kind of what it felt like here. They're just like, in this one, they're just like, you know what? We're just gonna shit all over those movies that Kevin Williamson clearly didn't watch, or at least I don't believe he watched. And they're just like, we're gonna mock those movies, and then we're gonna introduce this new. And so let's get to the actual plot of the Ghostfaces. So we find out that the first Ghostface escaped from this Fallbrook psychiatric ward, and Gail and Sydney go there to investigate who this guy was, where he came from, and they get there and they meet Ethan Embry, who you should know from. Why am I forgetting what movies he's in?
Disturbing Behavior.
Disturbing. Is he in Disturbing?
He's from that thing you do.
That Thing You Do. That's what I was trying to think of right there. He's in That Thing You Do, and he's also in Not Can't Buy Me Love. What's the one, the 90s movie he's in with Jennifer Love Hewitt? Can't Hardly
Uh,
Wait. Sorry.
Can't
Can't
hardly
Hardly Wait.
wait. Caught you.
He
Yeah,
plays
yeah,
like the boy. He plays like the main guy in Can't Hardly Wait. They show up there, and Ethan Embry plays like an orderly at this psychiatric ward. Very weird and creepy right away. And I was like, all right, something's going on with this guy right away. And he goes in, he shows him the room, and they see all these like pictures drawn on the wall. And the guy's going in, and she's like, have you ever seen this guy? And she shows him a picture of Stu Macher, and he goes, oh yeah, that's John Doe. What do you mean? She's like, yeah, he was like 4 doors down from here. John Doe. He showed up like one day and he was all fucked up and scarred and he was staying here. I guess he killed some kids back in the 90s or something. And like they brought him here and we never knew his name. Like they never found out who he was. But yeah, he was down. They go and look at the room and of
because
course
that
it's all
makes sense.
yeah. And so like now at this point, and then they also just happen to inject in, they call the coroner in Woodsboro and they're like, oh yeah, we never found his body, or they're
Yeah,
really, really playing it hard that Stu Macher is back. And so we find out that the guy they killed, the guy they ran over, it was a psych ward patient, and they still know there's other ghost faces out there. And I'm not even going to belabor the point. Hunting them down, they come after the daughter, they come after Sydney, they come after everybody, they come after Chad and Mindy and everyone in this bar when they're trying to figure out who the ghost faces are. And lo and behold, they get back to Sydney's house. They've kidnapped Tatum and they lure Sydney back to her home. So, Patrick, let's talk about the ending and the big reveal.
oh,
So, Sydney goes back to her house and she finds Tatum. They've tied up Tatum just like they did the boyfriend in the original Scream with Drew Barrymore. Her boyfriend, was tied up outside. And here's the ghost face. And Sydney's like, reveal who you are. And the guy reveals himself, and sure enough, to absolutely no one's surprise, it's Ethan Embry, the weird orderly from the psychiatric hospital. I was like, all right, why the fuck is he here?
why? Yes, why?
And then he says, Stu, reveal yourself. And you're like, I'm sorry, I should mention, while Sydney's in the house, she gets taunted by all the past ghost faces, which proves to you it's all AI. It's Stu, and then it turns into Roman. And the big surprise, by the way, was Laurie Metcalf coming back as Mrs. Loomis. That's the one that didn't leak out there. The one that didn't get leaked out was Laurie Metcalf coming back as Mrs. Loomis.
And they held on it just long enough to make you think it could have been her. Like they were actually holding on her long enough.
But it's just it goes to Stu, it goes to Mrs. Loomis, then it goes to Roman, and then it goes to Dewey, which they're like, we got David Arquette. He's not a killer, but sure, let's throw him in there too. And so at that point you realize it's all AI. But then she goes outside, and the killer's like, reveal yourself, Stu, and takes off the mask. And it's her next door neighbor, played by Anna Camp, who I adore, by the way. I like Anna. We
love Anna Camp here.
And she's like, I think what was her name in the movie?
I have it here. God damn it. Jessica Bowden. Jessica.
And she's like her next door neighbor, Jessica, who becomes one of Sydney's closest friends. And she's like, what? Why are you doing this? This is where it gets remarkably dumb. And I'm just like, as soon as the reveal happened, I'm like, we should have just not done this. Jessica proceeds to tell Sydney that she read her book, Out of Darkness, from part 4. And it empowered her so much that she murdered her abusive, evil husband. Okay, cool. Little girl power.
Sure.
Thing. Your abusive husbands probably should be put down more often. Sorry, I'm inciting violence here. But then she said, but then her big motivation for going after Sydney was, then I met you, and you were this like timid, normal mom, and you're not like this badass survivalist bitch. And that's disappointing to me. So I'm going to make your daughter, Tatum, watch you die, and then she'll become the total badass final girl. And I'm like, what? Huh? Did I get that right? Did I miss something? That's what it was.
Oh, Damon, you got more than I did. Because I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I really hated the Scream 6 reveal. I really hated that it's like, oh, it's this family that's getting revenge on her for what they did to her son. And I'm just like, oh God, like here we go again. This was just like, what are you even after, really?
Yeah.
And And that's the crazy thing because I was like, man, Kevin Williamson really is walking a tightrope in this movie because I could see the skill. Like, I could see his skill levels, even though a lot of this movie I genuinely hated. I was like, nah, he's still setting up and paying off everything. As bad as he's like tying things and making them make sense and using logic, it's the shittiest stretch of logic, but he's trying desperately to hold this thing together that needs to it completely blow apart across the universe. He's doing his damnedest, and he finally gave out there. He's like, he's like, I don't know. She just really wants someone to be a badass again. Isn't she a badass? Because she killed her abusive husband. Isn't that enough? And why, I guess she was a patient at that psych ward. And then so she became romantically involved with Ethan Embry's character. And so they plotted with the janitor at the, or no, sorry, another another psych patient who was a murderer, and they go, "Let's do this. Let's kill Sidney Prescott because, well, because of a lot of things that I'll have to explain for a very long time." And I was just like, "No, no,
That,
this didn't. This Damon, these movies have to land.
when
They have to." And they
when
did, and this one just landed with a splat.
when Ethan Embry pulled off his mask, I said, okay, we always got to have like the doofy stooge. We always got to have the guy or the girl who's like the sidekick who got pawned into coming into this. Charlie in Scream 4 with Jill, obviously going all the way back to Stu in part 1. Like he really didn't have a vengeance thing going on. He did
Yeah.
technically kill his ex-girlfriend with Drew Barrymore, but really he was just Billy's, lackey. Part 2, was Timothy Oliphant's character, Mickey. He was just a tool for Mrs. Loomis. Part 3 didn't have that because it was just Roman. He's the only solo Ghostface. But as I mentioned, part 4 was that. So like, and then Amber and Richie were just kind of goofy, whatever. But like they were not really involved in anything. So this was like, it felt like, okay, Ethan Embry is the new lackey. He's the new middleman. He's the new tool to go after Sydney. Okay, cool. And that moment, I'm like, okay, then who is the other one? Like, is it is it her other daughter? Is it like some other connection? And when it was Anna Camp, I was like, she was in the movie for like 10 minutes. We saw her sit down at the coffee shop to like, talk to Sydney after this whole thing started. We see her defend her son, who is like a weird true crime junkie. She's like, my son's a good kid. And then, that's just painting him to be a bad kid. And then she shows up and she's like, oh yeah, I was mad that you became a normal person after you were this badass bitch. I can't accept that. And I'm just like, all right. I think we've gone far enough here. Like,
That's
because one
it.
of
We
my
can't do
biggest,
this again.
one of my biggest complaints, if you go look at my motive, my ranking of motives, is like it gets a little convoluted when it's always about revenge or you're inventing new relatives, like when they invented Roman, which I think is a lot of people have a problem with Scream 3. I actually don't think it's that bad of a movie. But like the big reveal that like he was the one orchestrating the Scream 1 murders. I'm like, let's not rewrite history. Like you want to
Yeah.
make him your brother, you want to find out like whatever, but like they just had to move so many goalposts in that movie to be like, oh yeah, by the way, her mom, who was already the town slut, which they established in the first one, oh yeah, she also went to Hollywood and became an actress and had an illegitimate kid. And I'm like, all right, like, you're going a little too far to insert a new brother. And then, kind of with Scream 5, like Billy had the more I think about it, the more I had a problem with her being an illegitimate kid of Billy Loomis. If Billy Loomis had been like 25, sure, but he was like 18. Like, Jesus Christ, this kid ever like not fuck? What's going on here?
Well, some of us.
In this movie, I'm just like, I'd almost rather them, like, I would have rather them brought back Stu Macher from the
Yes.
dead.
Yes.
Like I said this on, I can't remember if it was a Scream podcast or one of their podcasts. I said I always had this idea that they would reveal that Stu survived and he was put in like a mental institution and he trained a new Ghostface to go after Sidney. And the big reveal would be like a tie-in for like Scream 5 would end and then that would lead into Scream 6, which is Stu revealing himself as the mastermind behind the people going after Sidney. And then the sixth film is her trying to get to Stu. And like, yes, it would kind of turn the franchise on its head because you no longer have the mystery and who are the two ghost faces, whatever. But like we'd have a clear cut goal of like her trying to track down Stu or Stu coming, whatever. I would have 1,000%, as goofy as it may have sounded to say Stu somehow survived. They teased it in part 5. They teased it in part 6. I don't think really Stu really died. We live in a conspiracy theory world, and it is 100% a movie. Just make Stu be alive. You know what I mean? Just
I
let Stu be, let that be the kid. And then, as goofy as it would have been, they're like, oh yeah, he's been alive this whole time for 30 years and no one figured out he was alive. But it would have made a hell of a lot more sense than Anna Camp's character being like, I'm sad you became a normal person, Sydney. That's our plot. That's why we're going after Sydney now. Like, at that point, I'm just like, all right, what's next? Like, the bus driver who dropped her off, she didn't tip him. That's the guy who's going to go after her next. Like, is that what we're doing here? Just stop.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. If the final reveal would have been it was Stu Macher all along, it would have been better. At least the motivation would have really still made sense. And it kind of would have come full circle. It's like, yes, we had to come all the way back to the beginning because this guy is insane and he's been going insane. I would have even bought the idea, and they teased the idea because they're always going, what could possibly have happened to Stu? They're doing it throughout this entire movie. One of the ideas is like, he escaped prison and became a drifter. I'm like, yeah, fine, that's fine. Like, and at least it would just make total sense. Like, I'm here to finish the job. You think I'm going to be finished with that? No, absolutely not. I had to live off grid for 30 years to come for you. I'm insane. I'm an absolute insane madman. So yeah, it would have made sense that he would have found some little techie people to make AI fakes of him to kind of put the scent off of him or whatever. This reveal of Jessica Bowden, the good neighbor, and you're right, they didn't spend enough time with her anyway. To me, she was a dead giveaway. I like when I first saw her with the son, I thought to myself, "Oh, it's her and the son." Like her and the son are doing this. Like
Yeah.
just something about it like really just like went red flag. And I want to credit maybe our buddy Dom Penna, horror movie Mafia. He may have done a video where he predicted it long ago. He was like, "It's the neighbor. I promise you, it's the neighbor." I'm pretty sure it was Dom. And if it is Dom, you let us know, and repost that and go like, "I was fucking right." And who cares about spoilers at this point, honestly, because it's going to be a very big letdown when you get there. Truth be told. Yeah, Damon. If
I
you
mean,
don't land this plane correctly, it is a disaster.
I feel like, and maybe I'm pretty steeped in my Scream lore, but I feel like at some point they mentioned that Stu had a sister.
Oh,
Maybe I'm,
please. Don't
maybe I'm,
don't you give them any more
no,
ideas,
I'm
Damon.
saying like this is going back a couple, maybe it's Scream 5, or I feel like, or maybe it's even Scream 1 they mentioned. I can't remember. I feel like there's somewhere along the way they mentioned that Stu had a sister. Even if you're not going to bring back Stu and you're going to do the AI thing, like you're going to say it's an AI version of Stu to taunt Sydney, I get it. But then you reveal it's his sister finally coming for revenge all these years later, his parents. Like, as goofy as it would have been, when they revealed the killers in this movie, I'm almost like, yeah, all right, I would have rather had fucking Roman pop back up or some other person from her
Yeah.
past, because at least it would have felt connected. Like, as goofy as it was that Roman just suddenly popped up in part 3 and he was actually the mastermind behind all the Scream killings, which I didn't like, but okay, whatever. Make it that. Like, make it Stu's cousin or his fucking uncle or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they like, it's not, if you're not going to make it really Stu, which I still think that would have been, like, I know they wanted to give Matthew a little more time, so he's on screen a bunch in the FaceTime calls to Sydney, and we get to see Matthew Lillard at his goofiest best. And I say that as a comment, like he's very goofy as Stu Macher. It works for him. So I get it. You want to give us more than just like 30 seconds at the end of the movie. It's like, boom, I'm taking a mask off. I'm Stu Macher. I get it. But if you're going to do the reveal and say it was all AI, which once again, sadly, that's the world we live in, I was like, oh God, this actually could happen. Make it something else, like whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't know what, I don't know. I'm not saying I have all the answers here, but like
The
make
best
it
answer
something.
was Stu this time.
Yeah, but if it's not going to be Stu, make it something connected to Stu, or you know what I mean? Like, don't make it some weird fan who's like, I'm mad you're not this bad bitch anymore, Sydney. That is the goofiest, dumbest shit ever. Like, that is the moment when that reveal happened, and the movie was over. I was just like, that's it. That's what we were doing here. Like,
Yeah,
because
it
the
was very
movie,
disappointing.
for all the weird nostalgia hits and all the greatest hits stuff, and like, oh yeah, we're gonna shit all over five, and all the things were like kind of goofy. And but I'm being serious when I say this. It still played like a formulaic Scream movie, which is not a bad thing. It's when movies go outside, when slasher movies go outside themselves, and it just suddenly becomes supernatural or whatever, and they've never been that
Jason
before.
Goes to
That's when
Hell
it gets,
comes to mind.
yeah, that's when it goes incredibly goofy. They didn't do any of that, so it still played out like a very formulaic Scream movie. But you got to
But you
pay it
gotta
off.
you gotta pay it off, and they did not pay it off, Damon. And that's the greatest sin of this movie. Because in my opinion, this movie is still insultingly stupid. Like for a lot of reasons that we've already gotten into, very insultingly stupid. But if they had landed the fucking plane, I might have been like, oh, you know what? I got to give you credit because at least it's well made. There's a lot of kills. There's a lot of good slashing and gore and scares. I go, it's all kind of in there. I go, you just had to make it. You had to make it all worthwhile, and they didn't.
And
So
here's a
big,
and
big
if,
failure there.
and if you go over to rewindthelivingdead.com right now, there's an article up talking where Kevin Williamson talks about what he was originally going to do for Scream 5 and Scream 6 after Scream 4, but it didn't happen because Scream 4 wasn't super successful, and they kind of put the franchise on ice for a decade or more. And he said the original idea was for Jill Roberts to win in Scream 4. She kills Sydney. And she gets away with it. She's the new Sydney. She's the new final girl, which is what she always wanted. And then Scream 5 would have been Jill's story, where Jill got away with it. Now she's a celebrity. She's in college. Everyone loves her. She's a survivor. She's relishing in all this fame. But then a new Ghostface shows up and starts killing her friends and basically says, I know what you did.
Right.
Now, they never reveal who the killer would have been or how that would have been, but that was the story. I was like, cool. That's one of the reasons I've fallen so deeply in love with Scream 4 is I love that concept of like her cousin desperately wanted to be Sydney. I get it. Like that, like, you know what I mean? Like you become famous and she's got a book deal and she's now like beloved in a way. Like she's a beloved survivor. She's like, I want that, but I can't just be that. I'm going to create it for myself. So she orchestrates a new Ghostface killing. And it took me years to understand the sophistication of that, but I was like, you know what? I really like that plot. And his original idea was like, we're going to move past Sydney. Part 5 is going to be Jill's story. But we're like, Jill's a bad person. Like, she's the killer.
Yeah.
She got away with it.
It's
But now,
actually a new and fresh and interesting way into this idea.
and then he said Scream 6, which I don't know if this would have really worked, but his idea for Scream 6 was he was also going to kill Dewey, and Scream 6 would have been Courtney Cox's movie. It would have been Gail Weathers' movie where she's moved on, she's trying to move on with her life after all these horrible things happen, but then the Ghostface killings start happening to her, and now she's distrusting of her new boyfriend, of everyone around her, because she's like the only one left from the original movie. So it's like, who are these people coming after me? Now, once again, he didn't say who it was or how it would have played out, but I was like, all right, you're going back to Scream 1, but you moved on. Like, no more Sydney, no more Jill. Now we're just going to have one movie on Gail. That all makes sense. That all works. And like when I heard that, especially the Jill Roberts story, I was like, all right, that would have been a cool twist because you moved on. And I'm not even sitting there saying you got to kill Sydney, but I'm just saying, like, if this movie, if you're not going to make it Stu, they reveal at one point that Tatum's boyfriend is really good at computers. They actually show him like using his own AI to create his own Stu, and like they're obviously trying to tell you that it's him. It's not him, but like they're trying to show you how AI works. Okay, cool. Then what if the killers were Tatum and her boyfriend, and Tatum's kind of got the same idea as Jill, where she's like, I want to embrace what my mom doesn't want to embrace. My mom doesn't want to, doesn't want to admit that she went through all this shit. I'm gonna do now. Is it fucked up that her daughter would be trying to kill her? It's a horror movie. That's what they do. Fucked up shit like that happens. That would have made more sense. Like they just revisit the plot from Scream 4 and they kind of reinvent it a little bit to say like, she's like, I'm going to be the new survivor. I'm going to take my mom's place because she's kind of become this homebody, latte queen. I want to be famous. I want to have a book deal.
I would, for the record, I would hate that. Like, I think it's a terrible idea, but yeah.
I mean, but I'm saying it's better than what we got here. At least it gives you a plot. Like they're like,
yeah, I mean, but I think ultimately what you had to do was kind of what Kevin Williamson was talking about off of 4, which is get away from Sydney finally. And they were starting to do it in 5 and 6. They were actually starting to get away from her. It was still weird and convoluted. I did not love the visions that she had and all that stuff. I was not into that stuff. But At the end of the day, you have to get away from Sidney Prescott at this point. At this point, it's not working. It's not.
Well, I'll say this before we get to categories. I read another review after I saw the movie tonight because I saw it a few hours ago and you were still seeing it, so I had time to kind of look things up and kind of see. And the reviews have not been very kind. I'll be honest about that. But the one thing I saw was one of the best parts about Scream Five was like when they brought it back, they did kind of reinvent things a little bit. And they kind of, of course, they tucked in all the nostalgia and everything, and the Billy Loomis of it all. But it felt fresh and new because it had been 11 years since we had a Scream movie. And the reviewer said by the end of this one, I was just exhausted. I was like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
We need a break. This
Oh,
is
big
this is
break.
this is classic relationship stuff, Patrick. We need a break. Like we need to take a break here. We need to go. We need like 5 years away, and hopefully you can come up with a different idea or a different concept, and maybe the opening of the movie is Sydney dying, and then we move on. I'm not saying Sydney has to die. The kind of famous thing about Sydney is she doesn't die, but we got to move on with whatever that is. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just Tatum, and Sydney doesn't even show up. You know what I mean? She calls her on the phone or something, says, "Mom, it's happening again," or some shit. I don't know. But you got to move on, and we got to have a break here. We need like a 5 year break. We cannot.
Oh, I need a big break from Scream.
I know they're already talking about doing Scream 8, and yes, I'm going to go see it, and yes, we're going to review it, but I don't really know where they can go because if this was the best they could come up with, we are out of ideas. We are out of ideas.
And that's coming from the Scream aficionado on this podcast. He wants a break. Imagine how I feel.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into categories. Let's kick things off as we do each and every week on the show, Patrick. And let's talk about best performance. So, when it comes to Scream 7, who gets your best performance?
Damon, I did have to give it to the woman I'm absolutely exhausted with, and it's not for her fault, but I did give it to Nev Campbell, who plays Sidney Prescott in this movie. She's the only one I think that is grounded in the movie, and that's in the writing of her character. I think all the other characters, like especially Mindy and Chad and Gail, it's just like, what the fuck is this? Like it was way too much. It was way too cheesy, way too self-aware. I hated that stuff. I genuinely hated it. I thought Nev Campbell knew how to play her character. I think she seemed to be the one person like locked in to like making the world make sense for as batshit as it was.
Yeah, I mean, Nev Campbell's great, and I'll just spoil this ahead of time. She's going to get my MVP in a second, so I'll just say that ahead of time. But I'll give you my best performance right now. And I'm going to say, even though they didn't write her great and they should have done a lot more with the character in terms of what she did in the movie, but I really do like Isabel May. I think she did a great job as playing Tatum. There's part of me that was like, can we just move on and let her be the character now? Because like you're giving us her daughter, let that be the next one. Or if you're gonna insist on making another one, let it be Tatum being the center of the story. Because I like Isabel May. I thought she did a great job. She played the role like yes, she did get like the goofy kind of like bratty teenager thing, but that's not her. That's the writing. But I
Yeah.
thought she did a good job with the performance. Like she did as much as she could with the material, and I thought she did a good job.
Fair, fair enough. She did what she could with what she was given.
And to that point, MVP, I am giving my MVP to Nev Campbell because, kind of to your point, the authenticity of the character, like she knows this character. She knows Sidney Prescott. And I think the problem that we're having with Sidney is they've just continuously tried to reinvent her over and over and over again instead of like, there's no through line with Sidney, which bugs me because it's like, part one and part two, high school to college, okay, that all makes sense. By part three, she's working as a crisis counselor, living in the middle of nowhere. Part four, she's written a book and now she's back out in the public spotlight. Part five, they don't really say what she's doing, but she says she has a husband and kids now. And then obviously she's not even in part six. And I'm just like, now she owns a coffee shop in the middle of Indiana. And I'm just like, credit to Nev Campbell, man. She just rolls with the punches because I'm just like, can we give this fucking woman one job and like let like anything? Like, I'm just like, they keep reinventing the character and at least Nev knows how to play it. And I'm like, you know what? For all the bullshit that she went through, she deserved the money for Scream 6. She deserved the money for Scream 7. And that way, good for you, Nev Campbell. I still adore her. I do. It's just time to move on. But yeah, I give her my MVP.
Yeah, I think her and my MVP Kevin Williamson are the two that did their damnedest to make this thing make sense. Um his slights to 5 and 6 aside, he was desperately trying to make it work. I could see it. I was like, he is using all the powers of a very, very experienced writer to try and justify the existence of this movie. And ultimately, it broke and failed. It just did, but not for him not trying. He
Well, I mean, he
certainly,
did write it, so he did write it, so he
no,
did.
but he wrote it. But my point is like at some point, it just does have to break. Like you're like,
Yeah.
I have to get it across the finish line, and it's insane that we're even doing it. It's insane that it's even happening. And so, for all the issues I have with it, and a lot of them are in the script, and a lot of them are what the character is, it's like I still saw in there the attempts to like set something up and pay it off, like all through it. The one thing he really should have set up and pay off, which he did not do, is Anna Camp's character. He did not set her up and pay her off well. If she really is the killer, my God, make the payoff worth it. Don't do that. Like he was stretched so thin in so many ways that was one of the one things that got left behind.
It was weird because when the movie got to the climax, and I know the movie's like over an hour and a half long, I was like, wow, we really got here quick because we didn't do any kind of character development with any of these people at all. Like, we had that one bar scene where all the kids are like accusing each other, but then
Yeah.
like Anna Camp's characters, and we get Ethan Embry for 5 minutes at the insane asylum. We get about 5 minutes of Anna Camp being friendly to Sydney at a coffee shop for like a very brief moment, and then defending her son from being like a suspect when they're like, hey, he's a weird kid who likes true crime. Maybe he did it. And she's like, my kid's a good kid. Which, by the way, even that, they're like, oh yeah, they're like, you killed your son. She's like, yeah, fuck him. Literally is what she basically
Yeah.
says. I mean,
Yeah.
she's like, oh yeah, fuck him. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what, huh? It just, yeah. Like, it would have been better if it was her and her son. Like, they would. I know that was totally set up, but at least that would have made more sense. She's like, "You killed your son." Yeah, I don't care. That's literally what she did.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, and I think his setup was, well, she's insane, so she wouldn't care. And I'm like, well, she spent a hell of a lot of time raising him if she was insane, and like
yeah.
making the facade of a very good neighbor. Damon, I want to resend my MVP. Like, maybe I give my MVP to the guy who does the voice, Ray Jackson or whatever. Like he's still out there banging
Roger
them out.
Jackson, yeah,
Roger Jackson, excuse me. Yeah. Also, I want to give a honorary one testicle award to Matthew Lillard. Like he was really going over the top. I would say he's having fun with it, is I think what he was
yeah.
doing. But it was a bit one testically, if I'm not
I
mistaken,
mean,
Damon.
I think he was playing the 2006 30 year later insane version of Stu Macher. Stu was a little goofy in the original one too, you know. So that's kind of what made
Yeah.
Stu. That's kind of what made Stu such a charming character, though. Is he was kind of goofy, you know. So
Yeah,
he
we
just
all
kind of
love Matthew Lillard though. Yeah.
dialed it up and kind of went for it. Patrick, next category, best kill. We have the same best kill, so I'll let you teed up here.
Damon, the one of the great offenses of this movie is that McKenna Grace is not used to her full potential. She's killed off rather early in the movie. She's one of the first kills, but it's an awesome kill. So she is practicing to be like a fairy in some play at school. I have no fucking clue what they're doing, but she's up on these wires and she's being lifted and raised, and that's part of her thing. She's kind of like flying through the air. Ghostface commandeers that mechanism and has her swinging to and fro across the stage. And as she swings toward him, he stabs her a couple of times, and then she swings back, and then she swings over, stabs her a few more times, and then the final kill, he just raises his blade up and lets her body run across the blade, and her guts just spill out, and she's stuck, sort of suspended in air, all twisted up and mangled, with all her guts hanging. And I was like, credit where it's due. Fantastic kill, fantastic imagery. That one was phenomenal.
That might be the gnarliest kill in the entire Scream franchise. Like, I don't know that I've
Maybe.
ever. Like, I know, like Casey Becker, when we see her tied up to the tree and her guts are hanging out, that's pretty gnarly. But we don't necessarily see it happen. We just see the aftermath of it. This one, you actually see them stab her through the guts, and her guts literally spill out. So yeah, that's the best kill. And also, to your point, Yeah, McKenna Grace, she's in it for like 2 minutes. She's like a friend, and they have this scene where they're practicing or they're audition or they're not auditioning. They're going to the rehearsal for this play, and then she gets killed. And I was like, okay, now like, I know she is a singer in her real life. I was like, now I know why you did the song with Ice Nine Kills, the new Scream songs. I was like, you got to give her something to do because she sure shit didn't have much to do with this movie. So I was like, God damn, you killed her off quick. Patrick, next category is best gore. What is your best gore in Scream 7?
Lots of gore. I mean, we just talked about that one right there. Rather gory scene. But in the end, Damon, if almost to just say we're sorry for how bad this was. For some reason, Anna Camp, who is a very slight human being, she's not the biggest human being, takes it like, I don't know, 4 shots to the chest and gets slammed against the garage door, and then somehow gets up and walks away from that. And then she comes back to attack Sydney one last time because that made zero sense why she's doing that. She runs full force at her, but Tatum is behind her and just at the right time pulls the trigger and literally blows her face off. And that was kind of a setup and payoff in the movie where Williamson makes Sydney tell Tatum, when you shoot somebody, shoot them in the head and make sure they're dead. So Tatum does that with Julie's character, and literally, I mean, they blow her face off. It is one of the goriest things I've ever seen in a Scream movie.
Her and Sydney, yeah, they both fire their guns. They blow her face.
That's right, they both do. Yes, that's
yeah,
correct.
they blow, mother and daughter team up. That is probably the best one. I think the McKenna Grace kill is probably my other favorite one, but I'll give you one more. I'll call it the beer tap death, which is
Yes.
Anna Camp's son getting killed by, I guess, his mother and her weird psychiatric boyfriend. They're in a bar, and one of the bar taps is like a steeple. It's like a church steeple almost, like with the pull tab for the bar. And they stab him a bunch of times, and then they pick him up and they set him down on the bar on the pull thing, and he slides down and it stabs him through the head, and then at the very end he opens his mouth and the beer and the blood comes spouting out his mouth. It's a little goofy, but I like the creativity of like, yeah, we're gonna literally impale this guy and we're gonna have beer and blood spread out of his mouth. I was like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they use the environments, it's a bar. So they're like, what can we use in the bar to actually make this kill somewhat interesting? And I was like, yeah, actually was.
Yeah. Patrick, next category, best scare. So let's get your best scare from Scream 7.
Damon, while we're in the bar, there's a moment where Chloe is looking around for Ghostface because they're all under attack, and he pops up from behind the bar, and I finally fucking jumped. I was like, whoa, shit. Like, it just caught me off guard at the right time. It scared the shit out of everybody in my audience. Like, it got everybody. It was just one of those really well-timed scares. There's a few of them in the movie, but that's the one that got me.
So I'm gonna say, actually, probably the highlight of this movie, being honest with you, and we really haven't talked about it, which is the opening in Stu's house when this couple shows up to rent out the Airbnb, the Stu Macher experience. That whole opening is actually really, really well done. Like, this couple shows up, they go in the house, and very much what is actually happening in real life. People do rent out fucking weird Airbnbs for people who want to go to murder houses or whatever. And they're, the boyfriend is all about the girlfriend, played by Michelle Randolph, who is also in 1883, by the way, or 18. She's in the 1923. She's also a yellow.
Oh, okay.
Person. And in the new show Landman, which I watched, she's also in that too. But like, they show up and it's all props and chalk outlines and everything, and they go into one room and there's an animatronic ghost face, like it's motion detector, and you move, it moves with you, it tries to stab you, it's got a voice box, it's like, oh, hello Sydney, whatever, and of course the girlfriend doesn't give a shit about any of this. Her boyfriend's all about it, she doesn't care. But then at one point, she goes back to the Ghostface mannequin, and it's not moving correctly, and then it actually comes after her. And it didn't work totally for me. I kind of saw it coming. My girlfriend jumped about 3 feet out of her seat. She got it because they kept fooling you with it. Like, when they originally introduced it, it's not. It is the animatronic, and then her boyfriend comes out wearing the ghost face mask, trying to fuck with her. She ends up punching him, and like, so you're like, okay, we moved past like it's going to be some other reveal. It's not. It actually is the animatronic. But when it actually happens, she fucking jumped like 3 feet in the air when it actually happened, and I was like, all right, I'm naming that my best scare because while it didn't totally get me, it was good. I'll admit it was good, but she fucking leapt out of her seat. So I was like, all right, that's the winner because it was like they kept trying to fool you with that, and then they actually did it. So.
Yeah, it was a decent misdirect. Like they kept kind of teasing it, teasing it, teasing it. Then they brought you over here, and then they brought you right back to it at the when you were least expecting it. So,
Right,
like I said earlier, quite a few good crafted moments in this movie.
but the opening, I want to we haven't talked about this, but I do want to. The opening was good. I thought that was a solid opening. Like the boyfriend gets stabbed to the head with the knife, which is pretty brutal, and then he goes after the girlfriend. She fights him up on top of the stairs. She ends up pushing both of them over the stairs, but the Ghostface falls. She grabs onto a chandelier, and then she falls, and the Ghostface turns over with his knife, and she just falls right under the knife. And then she's still alive. He literally sets her on fire along with the house. I was like, God damn! Like it's a pretty good opening for like that's always like the marquee of a Scream movie. The opening was pretty good. I'll give it credit for that.
It was pretty good. It just really didn't tie into anything. Like
It didn't, but
all it kind of was symbolizing like we're going to burn down what we did before. Again, talking shit on 5 and 6 is I think what it was, and or really on the obsession. I think maybe overall. I don't know. I don't know if it was saying a lot, but it was well made. Like I can't pretend like it was poorly executed.
that ties back to why it should have just been Stu. Like, okay, we're going to burn it down, great. But if it's just Anna Camp and her weird psychiatric boyfriend, what
Yeah.
sense did it make for that? So, yeah.
It would make a lot of sense for Stu to burn that place down.
Yeah, totally. Patrick, next category, can we survive this Ghostface? So this is the latest iteration of the Ghostface killer. Some of them have been more brutal. Some of them been more goofy. In this case, Patrick, are you surviving this Ghostface?
These were particularly brutal ghost faces, and so they would have been tricky. And the one guy, the random third guy that they had, which I almost feel like it was they stole that from Hard Eyes, although that came out just I think they wrote this script before Hard Eyes came out. But the random guy was a pretty tough guy. He's a big guy, a good fighter. Like he has a really good knockdown, drag out fight with Joel McHale. So you'd be in trouble if you ran into him. The problem is these are not very stealthy Scream or ghost faces. They're stealthy for really dumb characters who are not being aware of their situations. I don't exist in their world. I'm going to notice shit where these characters like flat out ignore red flags. That wouldn't happen to me. So I'm going to be cocky here, Damon, and say that I would survive.
I mean, I think I would also, but I will give credit at least for that first Ghostface, the one that gets run over by the car. Every other Ghostface in Scream, like they do the goofiest shit, like they run and slam their knife into a wall, and the killer, the girl gets away, or like he falls and stumbles over a fucking sofa. And I'm just like, this is like Keystone Cop shit. Like they're not stealth. This is like Three Stooges shit. Like to show a little bit more skill here. Like you're not going to just fall over yourself. And so I actually really appreciated that fight between Joel McHale and the ones. I mean, they fucking go at it, man. They fucking fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, in that situation, I would like to believe with my actual martial arts experience, the fact that I'm 6'3", I'm a big dude. I'm like, yeah, like that would be me. Like Joel McHale, like I feel like that would be me. Like he handles himself pretty well, and he ends up falling down the stairs and kind of getting knocked out, but he survives, and like it still ends up helping his family. So I'm like, I think that would kind of be me in that situation because the other two, I'm like, I'd beat the shit out of those two. Like Ethan Embry, I don't get that fucking guy, and Anna Camp's like 5'2". Like I'm not gonna hit a woman, but like you're wearing a Ghostface mask, you're fair game. So like I think I would, but like that's the challenge. Like, I feel like I'd be in the Joel McHale's character, and like that would be a knockdown, drag out fight. And that guy was pretty badass. So I was like, all right, maybe I would make it.
Yeah, maybe.
So like I'll put myself in that situation, and I guess I get run over by a car. Patrick, you put this in for me. I know you did. Rank this killer reveal. And boy, did you know where you were going with this category.
Damon, I wrote this category before I knew the reveal. This is what I want. I want this for tonight. Damon, if you do not know, if you do not follow Damon of the Dead on TikTok, Or you can follow his IG. And did we put it on our Rewinded
We
Living
put
Dead
our,
IG?
we did,
So
yeah.
if you're following our Rewinded Living Dead IG, I won't spoil your list over there, Damon, but you did make a list of killer reveals and which one was best in the Scream
Well,
franchise, and it wasn't
best the best motives, the best
excuse me,
motives are,
motives. Yeah,
yeah,
motives, but
yeah,
revealing their motives is what I meant.
yeah.
But yes, Damon made this list. I think it's a great list, actually. And the number one will shock you. So go check that out. But Damon, here we are. I did not realize what the reveal was going to be this time. Where do you rank it in your now ranking of seven Scream movies?
So I want people to watch the video, so I'm not going to give you the full ranking, but I will tell you number six. Number six was Richie and Amber from Scream 5 because I was like, they really had no connection to the characters. They were just toxic fans of Stab and they wanted to make a better Stab movie. And I was like, it was a novel twist. It was different. Okay, cool. But like ultimately, it was kind of goofy when you really think about it. Like they really had no connection whatsoever to our characters. They kind of inserted themselves into our characters' lives with Sam and obviously with Amber being Academy Award winner Mikey Madison becoming
Hmm.
friends with all the other kids in Woodsboro. That was my number six. That is officially now the second worst voted because now number seven with a bullet, the worst Scream reveal, the worst Scream motive ever by a mile is this movie.
Yeah.
I still don't totally know for sure that I got it. I think I did. I read a book. I killed my husband, and I was disappointed when I met you. That was the reveal. Dumbest shit ever. Dumbest killers ever. Dumbest motive ever. Like, it's all exposition, which is totally a Scream thing. They got to tell you exactly why they're pissed at you. But hers, I was just like, huh? What? You read her book? You killed your husband, and then you went to you went to an insane asylum, and you got out and you said, you know what? I want to kill this bitch because she's not the bad bitch I thought she was. I mean, that is the dumbest shit ever, Patrick. Literally, like that is Freddy's dead. Jason goes to hell. Michael Myers and the Thorn cult. Like it's that level of dumb.
What I think they should do. By the way, I don't know if you were there for the trailers. The new Scary Movie trailer played. And I watched it because it's a comedy. I'm like, whatever, I'll just watch this trailer because they're parodying all these other horror movies. They should do in the Scream in the new Scary Movie. They should do an incredibly convoluted killer reveal, and then our hero has to go. I'm sorry, I don't understand anything you just said. Can you explain it again as a nod to Scream Seven's just most convoluted and dumb reveal. Like it's dumber than dumb. And when I put this up, I had no idea we were going to get a bad reveal. And I go, if this isn't the bottom, if this isn't the very bottom, like I'm going to have to reevaluate how I look at Scream because this is as stupid as it gets. But if Damon, the Scream expert, puts it any higher than the bottom, I really need to look at this franchise again. As bad as it gets, Damon. I fully agree with you.
This is I wish I would have pulled the sound clip. This is like the end of that one thing with Billy Madison where he's like, everything you said, we're all dumber for having heard it. You see what I'm talking about where he's doing the debate and he's like, we're all dumber for having listened to you. That is the reveal in Scream 7 where I'm just like, we learned nothing. You proved nothing. We're all dumber for having had this reveal. Sorry, Scream 7, you are now at the bottom of the list for Scream reveals or for Scream motives. Yeah, you are out. You are done. This is the worst by a wide margin. Wide margin. Patrick, last category, is it screamy? Now, I'm going to go first here because, I am the Scream guy.
You are.
I had a lot of issues with this movie. Leaning way too hard on the nostalgia, leaning way too hard on let's shit on Scream 5 and Scream 6. Let's just, completely ignore the fact that, like, it's not their fault that Nev Campbell wasn't in Scream 6. Like, it was the studio's fault. Not Melissa Barrera, not fucking Radio Silence, none of them. But they really hammered it. But as I said, it still played out like a classic Scream. Yes, there's goofy moments like Gail showing up right on time to slam her car into the ghost. Mindy and Chad showing up for no fucking apparent reason other than to shit on the other two movies they were in. Gail had zero purpose in this movie, really. She did nothing. Uh, yes, there was a lot of weird shit, but I could pick apart almost any slasher and do that to it. It played like a Scream movie to the part I was like, you know what? Like, I was still having fun with it. As goofy as some of this shit got, I was like, you know, I'm still having fun. Then the reveal happened, the killer reveal, and the motive. And I was like, this is remarkably stupid. So I'm going to say it is Screamy because it plays like a formulaic Scream movie right up to the end. The end ruins it. And I'm not saying the movie was perfect, far from perfect. It's a watchable Scream movie up till the end. When you get to the reveal, if you don't want to throw something at your television or the movie screen, then I don't know what, because I can't take it back. It was the dumbest thing ever.
It is screamy. That's the crazy thing about this. This is a very screamy movie. Got
Yeah.
plenty of kills, plenty of gore, plenty of ghost face, plenty of whodunit, plenty of anyone could be the killer. It's all there. It's just all there in a really bad package. Like it just like if the reveal had been good, the worst moment of the movie would have been Gail showing up and hitting him with her car exactly at the right moment. I can't begin to stress. I feel like we haven't stressed enough how bad that scene
But
is.
man, my theater cheered though when she got out of the car and they're like, "Oh, it's Gail Weather." So I mean, maybe
Oh,
everyone will take
I
it.
was like, I was like, if I didn't have to talk about this for the podcast, I'd walk right here. It's the most cringe-inducing moment.
It
I
is.
I genuinely hated it. But luckily for that moment, the reveal is far stupider and far more mind-numbing. I mean, as you said, Damon, we are all stupider for having sat through that ending. I was like, I just spent 90 minutes here for that. I don't even know what the fuck that was. But all that said, is this a Scream movie? Are Scream fans who are clawing and scratching for more Scream going to get more Scream in this movie? 100%. Even the meta of it. The meta now is the meta is about other Scream movies. Like
But
it's continuing to do its thing.
I want to throw out one more real quick thing before we get out of here. We talk about the nostalgia thing. You notice the one nostalgia thing they completely left by the wayside with this movie, which is the phone calls.
Yeah.
They did it. They did it early when the phone call came to Sydney, and they're like, "Hello, Sydney," and then it's Matthew Lillard. She's like, "What the fuck? It's Stu." The rest of the movie is like FaceTime calls. They're not even doing like the scream. Like that's like every Scream movie is like taunting you with the phone call, like "Hello, whoever, I'm coming to kill you." Like that is like a staple of the Scream movie. They just ignored like of all the nostalgia shit they brought back, they failed to do that. Like there's literally a phone call at the beginning, and then the rest of it is him doing FaceTime calls as Stu. I was like,
Yeah, well.
I'm not saying they should have done more. I'm just saying, like, that's of all the nostalgia shit they pulled out of the trunk. That's the one thing they left by the wayside. Like, Roger Jackson's like, I ain't got shit to do here.
That's true. It's just like, so I'm done. Half
Yeah,
day. Okay, great. Pay
yeah.
me my
Like
million bucks or whatever they pay him.
he has like two lines or four lines. Like it's like the rest of it is Stu showing up. Like, hey, it's FaceTime Stu. What's going on, Sid?
Yeah, Roger. Now Roger and Quentin Tarantino both hate Matthew Lillard. How about that?
Apparently, yeah, apparently so. Like, but now that I say that, you realize how like, they didn't use the phone trick. That's like a staple of the Scream franchise.
Yeah, well, this movie made a lot of mistakes, Damon. What can I say?
Yeah, well, I'm here to tell you, I still love Scream, and I will say this movie, as bad as much as I had a problem with, it's probably still better than most slashers I've seen in the last 5 years. But yeah, we need a break, man. Like we really do. Like we need. We're not going to get it because I know they're going to make another one right away, and maybe they'll somehow salvage it. They'll listen to us and be like, "Oh shit, we really fucked this up."
Oh,
But
you guys don't want Nev Campbell in space?
yeah,
Oh, that was our
uh,
plan. We had that all written
yeah.
out.
Yeah, but yeah, like in an ideal world, we go away for 5 years, we come back with a different story and different characters and whatever. But yeah, right now, man, the well has run dry.
Yeah, give me 5 years and give me Melissa Barrera with $50 million in her pocket. How about that?
Or
Like
give
let's
me
go back. Let's go over there.
give me Isabel May and 50, whatever. Give me something else. Give me. Whatever. Yeah.
Something else. Dear
Yeah.
God.
All right, Patrick, that is our episode. That is Scream 7. We're rolling, man. We got a busy March. We're rolling right into The Bride, which is the next big
Yep.
movie we're going to be reviewing, which is Maggie Gyllenhaal's take on The Bride of Frankenstein. We got Undertone, which is a very talked about movie, very buzzy movie coming from A24. A lot of our horror creator friends say it's insanely scary, which always worries me when I hear that. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of movies people have said it's really
Damon and I
scary.
are psychopaths. You're not going
Yeah,
to scare us.
and then Ready or Not 2, which I know you are not excited about. I am. I loved Ready or Not, the original one, so I'm very excited for Ready or Not 2. So we have that. So we like 3 more weeks of new movies.
We do, Damon. It's an action-packed 3 more weeks, and somewhere in there, we're going to have to stick in the Film Corps podcast for our great patrons. Please join our Patreon at patreon.com/rewind the living dead.
We were joking tonight at the theater, Patrick, because I hate the scary movies. I fucking hate those movies. I do not like those movies at all.
I'm going to see that one.
I hate them. I've never been a fan of those. But we were talking, and my girlfriend turned to me and she's like, "You guys are going to review that?" I was like, "Oh hell no, we're not reviewing that because it's not a horror movie. It's a comedy. Like not even a horror comedy."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my god, we're going to put that on Patreon. They're going to vote for that to be our Film Corps podcast that month."
They
I
will.
just see it coming. So
that's happening.
Yeah, you're going to torture me. You're going to make me review Scary Movie 6, and I'm like, "Oh, this fucking movie." But yeah, that's coming out later this year. We'll put it up for our Film Corps podcast. And if you are on patreon.com/Rewind the Living Dead, you can vote for it and torture me. Go for it, because that's the only way we're reviewing that movie. So I've never been a fan of scary movies. I've never thought those things were funny. Anyways, that is our podcast. As always, want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. Make sure you check us out on all of your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and of course over on our website, rewindofthelivingdead.com, and on YouTube. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead. Even if you don't watch us over there, like and subscribe. It really does help us in terms of search results and all that kind of good stuff. We're still desperately trying to build our YouTube, so go over there and check it out. And as I said, if you want early access to these episodes, patreon.com/Rewind of the Living Dead. $5 a month. You support your boys, and you get really cool shit early, and you get also exclusive shit you won't get anywhere else. Questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, your opinion of Scream 7. Did you like the killer reveal? Please explain to me if you did. Hit us up on email, rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That is rot. livingdead@gmail.com, or find us on social media. We are just search Rewind of the Living Dead. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter/X, and we are on Instagram. We love to hear from you guys, and you can also find us on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And a big thank you, as always, to everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you then.
Peace, Sydney.